Hi there, I'm Murray Thompson and welcome to my garden. Now, for a background of my garden and how the year went, it was a late spring for putting in most of my plants. All were started off in pots first. None were planted directly as tubers in the soil. About 50% would have been grown from pot tuber sources, the rest from field-grown tuber stock. I put in a total of 760 plants, roughly 250 different named cultivars, and I put in also 89 seedlings that were started off in about the 1st of March. The first of the plants went in about the 15th of May, and the last of the plants, because of weather, went in about the 7th or 8th of July, which was really quite late.
Holly Hill Black Widow, beautiful water lily, very, very intense color, possibly number 2 on my list of favorites, but number 1, which is right beside it, is Holly Hill Black Beauty, which is this guy right here. Very, very similar in color, but totally different forms. Together in a basket, these guys are stunning. Awesome stems, really, really healthy plant. Easy to dig, easy to separate. Everything about this variety is so simple, beautiful. Right, Murray?
It is one of my favorites, certainly from a water lily standpoint. This is actually my favorite for a form. The other one that I had that I liked very much was one called Karma Chalk, and the difference with it that this one does not have is the deep foliage, which some people tend to gravitate towards. But yes, it's a very worthy water lily. Yes. Very competitive. Does
well at the shows. Might take a while before it beats Palm Howden, but you know, you get a good one, it will.
This is Atera rufus. Probably, from a show standpoint, one of the best red cactuses out here. This also has that nice petal scintillation thing in the sunshine, just glows on a sunny day. This is actually still a good time for taking the shots on it though, because the overcast day is a good way to collect the good proper color for them.
Yeah, the form on this one's beautiful. You could just instantly see the form's beautiful. And if I look down in the center, I can see the what do you call those, Murray? Those little yellow things, pollen things.
Yeah, yep.
So cool.
Yeah. Now you say it was Hamilton. There was a 5-pack, I think, that won the award. You have to remember too, this was growing out here hard. There's been nobody mollycoddling this stock. It wasn't.
There's no display.
It wasn't tied up. There was nothing done with it. This one here has had one stem off the side of it, but that's it. So the vigor in this plant is just outstanding.
It's very good.
Now there's a 4-pack of them that was planted here. I tend to plant in groupings so that I can have the color making a statement, just the same as some of these other ones around us here. But that's an absolute must for anybody who wanted to get into exhibition in the red cactus. Okay, this is Wynn's Farmer John. It's been a long time favorite of mine. I've grown it for about 7 or 8 years. It always has a lovely range of flowers on it. Although if I was growing this for exhibition, I'd be growing it with fewer up. This is growing wild. But when we do it this way, if people take the blooms for making arrangements and such, they're a far better size. A bloom that's too large makes it awkward unless you've got a castle.
It's spectacular. It's so heavily petaled. It's just beautiful. I think for show, you'd grow it 4 to 6 up.
I think that would be about right.
And you would get huge flowers on it. Huge.
And this obviously has not been disbudded or anything too, with my being away for the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lovely color and works with many color palettes when you're putting arrangements together.
This is Kids Climax, an absolutely stunning dahlia, and I do believe it's probably closer to 80 years old, if not a bit older.
1940 is when it came out.
1940, and it's still going as strong as ever. This thing's probably not even tied, and it's spectacular. The size of blooms on it for no disbudding is huge. I think if you disbud it, you could get easily 12-inch blooms.
I could do that, you know. And actually, this really does need it, because what happens if you don't disbud? You see, like this one, where the next buds tend to wind up coming right through the bloom, and it takes away from it. But at the same time, you can either decide to take out the central and first bloom and have 3, or you can take all the other 3 off and leave them. This is probably as good a growth and a flower output as I've had on this particular cultivar. It also tends to wind up being a little bit shorter than this. It seldom gets above 3.5 feet, but you see here, this is more, this is closer to 4 feet, so a fair bit of height, and it is a very strong, stemmed,
very strong
as well.
It's like wood. Okay, here we got a new introduction from John Mooney in Hamilton. It's called Coleen Rooney. It's a beautiful, beautiful medium formal deck. It's a really good, strong, healthy plant. When I first did cuttings this year, I did leaf cuttings, and every single one of them grew within a matter of 2 weeks. So it's very healthy, very vigorous. Awesome show flower, and just a beautiful, beautiful rich color. Okay, here we've got Jomanda. Jomanda is a ball dahlia.
Mary's
Jomanda, sorry, because Jomanda is the bronze colored one. This is Mary's Jomanda. Is Mary's a sport of Jomanda, or is Jomanda a sport of Mary's? I'm not quite sure. But Mary's Jomanda is a good seed parent, and I still happen to have Coleen Rooney, so if you were happen to maybe put these two together, you might get something very interesting. You know, good form and interesting colors.
Okay, the main idea in this particular part is to say that you can group by color. This was my wife's idea, my wife Sharon, where you have the same color, but you have different textures. So if you take a look, and you're doing your Jim Hall there, I can see.
My Jim Hall impression.
But anyway, this is Ben Houston that Michael was framing there, and this one is Marn, and the color is similar enough where you can group, but you can get textures, and you can also work into this heights, so that if you were to put, knowing how high your dahlias are expected to be, you can put this in the back part. You can put progressively shorter dahlias in the front, but if you group them by color, it has a really lovely effect to give the artistic part of your flower garden some interest. Okay, this is Wynn's Feisty Frieda. The intensity of the color is what got me involved with this one first. I've grown that for about 5 or 6 years now, and I don't do much trimming with it, which leaves the flowers a little bit undersized. The one challenge that we wind up having with this one in photography work is that it's a hard one to capture the true color of, just because of its color intensity. It's very
very saturated color.
It is a very saturated burgundy, what I would call, and it just stands right out. You notice if it was sunshine, you'd notice that the petals on here glow with the sunlight. It's almost like you're looking at a metal flake kind of paint. If you look at some dahlias, you get that effect. In lilies, for example, they call that angel dusting. I just call it that it's a color that scintillates. Perhaps that's the right word. I don't know.
Oh yes, it's a good one.
Anyway, it's a great one for arrangements. I've done well in the shows with this when I do the proper preparation for it. But
I remember your basket from last
yes.
year. It was spectacular.
It was.
Yes.
This cultivar called Encore is a sport of show and tell. Show and tell has the orange with the yellow in the tips. This one happens to be just the straight yellow as a large fimbriated dahlia. This also has a need for disbudding and debranching in some cases. You'll see that in some cases, like over here for example, that the stems go right up through the flowers. So sometimes it's a good idea to get rid of the extra stems, or as I say, you can cut out the center and let the other buds come out like it's been done over here, where you wind up now having, say, 3 blooms rather than having one central. That works out fairly well. Now, the other thing, this is one of the first dahlias to succumb to frost. I don't know what it is, whether it's the moisture content in the flowers, but both this one and the parent show and tell are the first ones to show frost damage. You can have a very light damage and the whole flower will be gone, whereas a lot of other blooms are more hardy. The ball type dahlias, the palms, and indeed some regular formal decoratives are able to withstand a light frost. But this is the first one to go. Okay, now this is Primrose Diane, and I noticed 2 or 3 days ago that my foliage was starting to wilt. And usually, if this is something that happens, either it's gotten twisted off at the base or you've lost a part of it, but you also look for brown stemming. And when you see these kind of brown stems, and if you want to come in closer here, you can see that there's a buildup of white. If you can get around to the backside here, you can see it right here. There's a bit of white mold. And the stem by itself is browned all the way down. And I'll cut this off because I don't want this in the garden because it does spread spores. So this is going to be consigned to the garbage, not the compost heap. So if I can bring this out and get rid of the extra stuff, I'll come back and pick this all up later on because I want none of this to go into compost. But if you can take a look down the stem here, you can see how the brown is extended down. I could save this and the roots would probably be okay because this has not gone down through here. But this certainly looks like spore territory to me. So we'll cut this off. Now, what I'm looking for, if this is truly what it is that there should be like a little pellet that you'll find when you split the stem open. And there you can see several little pellets. Here, these little pellets right here are not eggs, not seeds, not insects. This is a spore disease. And you don't want any of that left in the garden. It will live in the soil for years. Some say 10 to 15 years. So you do not want this in your compost. So this will be going in the garbage, in the disposal to the regular landfill site. Now, this is some scientific evidence that grasshoppers believe that white on the blooms tastes much better than the color on the blooms. This particular one shows that the bicolor white has been eaten off all the way around. This is evidence of grasshopper damage. It's not Japanese beetles, because Japanese beetles will go right down inside and make a mess, and they'll make a hole in the center they'll make a hole in the center of a petal like that, but the grasshoppers will sit there and munch from the outside in. But if you were to see just pan over here if you would, this is an example of what it really should look like without some of that small damage on there. But that's how much white would normally be seen on this little BJ. This particular part of the video clip is for Malachi burn. Malachi, you'll remember back at the time of the auction, you were selling this one right here. It's called Knee Deep, and somebody asked you the height of it, and you said, well, you know, kind of like this, you know, and you got an unexpected response. But what I want to leave for you, Malachi, is that they aren't all knee deep. This one is called hip deep, okay? Just for you, Malachi.
So we've found Murray's yoga spot here. It's hidden within the sunflowers. This is where he does yoga in the morning.